global financial face-off, G7 versus BRICS. The world is watching a financial face-off. In one corner we have the G7, the group of the world's richest nations. These countries, the United States, Canada, Japan, Germany, France, Italy and the United Kingdom, have long dominated the global economy. In the other corner we have BRICS, a group of 5 major emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. BRICS is challenging the old order, seeking to reshape global finance and trade. This rivalry is heating up. BRICS is growing in strength, and its ambitions are making the G7 nervous. At the heart of this tension is the future of money itself. Will the US dollar remain the world's dominant currency, or will BRICS create a new financial system that challenges the West's grip on the global economy? The stakes are high. The outcome of this financial face-off will have profound implications for everyone, shaping the world we live in for decades to come. Understanding BRICS, a rising powerhouse. BRICS is not just a random collection of countries. These 5 nations represent a significant portion of the world's population, landmass and economic output. Together they account for over 40% of the world's population and nearly a quarter of global GDP. What unites these geographically diverse nations is their shared desire for a more multipolar world, one where power is distributed more evenly. They believe that the current global order, largely shaped by the West after World War II, no longer reflects the realities of the 21st century. BRICS aims to change that. They are cooperating on various fronts, from trade and investment to infrastructure development and technology. Their ultimate goal is to create a more equitable and just global system, one where their voices are heard and their interests are represented. Challenging the dollar, the mBridge payment system. One of BRICS's most ambitious projects is the creation of a new international payment system. This system, tentatively called mBridge, aims to provide an alternative to the current SWIFT system, which is dominated by the United States. SWIFT, which stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, is the backbone of international finance. It's the system that banks use to send and receive information about financial transactions such as money transfers. BRICS argues that the current SWIFT system is unfair and open to abuse. They point to instances where the US has used its control over SWIFT to impose sanctions on countries it disagrees with, effectively cutting them off from the global financial system. The mBridge payment system, if successful, could significantly diminish the US dollar's dominance. It would allow BRICS nations and their trading partners to bypass SWIFT and conduct transactions in their own currencies, reducing their reliance on the US dollar. Why is the G7 worried? The G7 is understandably concerned about BRICS's growing influence and its plans for a new financial order. The potential decline of the US dollar's dominance strikes at the heart of the G7's economic and geopolitical power. For decades, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. This means that central banks around the world hold significant reserves of US dollars, and international trade is often conducted in US dollars. This privileged status gives the US enormous economic and political leverage. It allows the US to borrow money at lower interest rates, finance its large trade deficits, and impose sanctions on other countries more effectively. If the BRICS nations and other countries start using the mBridge system and conducting trade in their own currencies, the demand for US dollars could decrease. This could lead to a weaker dollar, higher interest rates in the US, and a decline in the country's economic and political clout. Section 5. The US dollar. Still the king? Despite the rise of BRICS and the potential threat to the US dollar, it's important to remember that the greenback is not going to disappear overnight. The US dollar remains the world's most traded currency, and the US economy is still the largest in the world. Moreover, the US financial system is deeply integrated into the global economy. Many international contracts are denominated in US dollars, and US financial institutions play a dominant role in global finance. However, the emergence of BRICS and its challenge to the existing financial order is a wake-up call for the US and its G7 allies. It highlights the need for the G7 to adapt to a changing world and find ways to remain relevant and influential in the 21st century. Section 6, Countering BRICS, Potential G7 Strategies. The G7 is not sitting idly by as BRICS challenges the status quo. They are exploring various strategies to counter BRICS' growing influence and protect their own interests. These strategies range from economic sanctions to strengthening alliances and even engaging in currency manipulation. Each of these strategies comes with its own set of risks and rewards. The G7 will need to carefully weigh its options and choose its battles wisely if it wants to succeed in this high-stakes game of financial chess. The outcome of this struggle will have profound implications for the future of the global economy and the balance of power in the world. Does Section 7, Economic Sanctions, a double-edged sword? One of the tools at the G7's disposal is economic sanctions. The US, in particular, has a long history of using sanctions to punish countries it deems hostile or to try to force them to change their behavior. Sanctions can be a powerful weapon, but they are a blunt instrument. They often harm ordinary citizens more than they hurt the intended targets, and they can backfire by pushing countries closer together. Moreover, the effectiveness of sanctions is diminishing as countries find ways to circumvent them. The rise of alternative financial systems, like the proposed mBridge network, further reduces the impact of sanctions. Does Section 8, Strengthening Alliances, a united front? Another strategy the G7 is pursuing is strengthening its alliances and building new partnerships. By presenting a united front, the G7 hopes to counter BRICS' growing influence and maintain its dominance in global affairs. The G7 has been reaching out to other countries, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, to strengthen economic and security ties. They are also working to promote their values and interests through diplomacy and international institutions. However, building and maintaining strong alliances requires constant effort and compromise. The G7 will need to address the concerns of its partners and be willing to share power if it wants to maintain their support. Section 9, Currency Manipulation, a risky game. A more controversial strategy that some G7 members might be tempted to employ is currency manipulation. This involves deliberately weakening one's currency to make exports cheaper and gain a competitive advantage in international trade. Currency manipulation is a risky game. It can lead to retaliatory measures from other countries and trigger a currency war, which could destabilize the global economy. Moreover, currency manipulation is generally frowned upon by international organizations like the International Monetary Fund. Engaging in such practices could damage the G7's credibility and reputation. Section 10, the future of global trade, a world divided. The financial tensions between the G7 and BRICS raise concerns about the future of global trade. Will we see a world divided into two competing blocs, each with its own financial system and trading partners? Such a scenario would have significant consequences for the global economy. It could lead to reduced trade, slower economic growth, and increased geopolitical tensions. However, it's also possible that the G7 and BRICS will find ways to coexist and cooperate, recognizing that their interests are not always opposed. They could work together to address common challenges like climate change, pandemics, and global poverty. Section 11. Conclusion. Navigating the financial storm. The financial face-off between the G7 and BRICS is a defining moment in history. It reflects the shifting balance of power in the world and the emergence of a more multipolar order. The outcome of this struggle will have profound implications for everyone. It will shape the global economy, the future of money, and the balance of power in the world. The big question is, can the G7 and BRICS find ways to cooperate and build a more stable and prosperous world for all? Or are we heading towards a future of increased rivalry and division?